Hey everyone, Joshua Kirk here with you once again. Now it's time for episode 119 of Album of the Day, in which, today I'm gonna, be doing something a little different today. This review that I'm doing, it is for an album that I've already reviewed before, but I'm doing kind of a revitalized sort of review for it, like a revised review, redemption review, whatever you want to call it, of this record, mostly because I'm not really too proud of my older version of my review for this record, mostly because I feel like there wasn't enough of my own words in it, and also because this is an album that's really grown on me since I reviewed it, because I did like it in the review, but I had kind of a few nitpicks about it, and I gave it a 7 out of 10 in my review, but it's really grown on me with repeated listens to the point where I, kind of feel like I want to, do a revised review of the new record from a Philadelphia band that, plays their music that's like a mix of like some emo, the suburban blues, of course, some indie rock, and maybe a little pop punk in there too. Maybe not really totally pop punk. I think more indie, kind of an emo band. But I'm talking about the band known as Modern Baseball, and I'm here to talk about their third studio album, which was released in May this year. The album is called Holy Ghost, and I wanted to, do a revised review of this record because, it's really grown on me with repeated listens to the point where I think it's probably going to be one of my favorite rock albums of the year when I do, thinking about doing my top 50 albums of the year, something like that. I'll have to wait till the end of the year to decide that, though, but still, it's a great record. Definitely recommend it. There's the track listing there. This is their second full-length album on Run for Cover Records, and their third studio album. You can listen to this on Bandcamp, stuff like that, on Run for Cover Records' Bandcamp page and stuff like that. And there's the disc, and it says For Pop on there, which turns out, I think is referring to Jake Uwald's grandfather, because the first half of this record was penned by Jake Uwald, one of the frontmen of this group, dealing with kind of the passing of his grandfather, and the second half, written by Brendan Lukens, deals with kind of his battle with mental illness and depression. Did find that out from a pretty interesting documentary on this record, mini documentary on this, as well as, some research that I did online for this. There's the booklet there. Not really the best cover art of the year, in my opinion. It is kind of, they did kind of play it safe a little bit with the cover art, but that's okay. Anyway, there's the lyrics there. There's 11 tracks on this album. A pretty short record. It's only 27 minutes long. But, I'll go into more detail about this album. That's the packaging for Holy Ghost, the new album from Modern Baseball. This was a record that I initially, wasn't really going to listen to. I initially wasn't really that interested in listening to it, mostly because I feel that, the current crop of emo bands is, they're not really bringing anything new to the table. They're just kind of rehashing what every seminal emo band has done, except they do it with just, some more kind of drab songwriting and melodies that, just doesn't really appeal to me. I haven't really been on board with the current crop of emo right now, but, I've heard quite a few people say that this record is actually pretty good, so I decided, well, curiosity's gonna get the best of me. Let's check out this record. So I did, and I first few listens, I really liked it. But as of right now, while I'm not like head over heels for the record, it's really grown on me to the point where I was pleasantly surprised by how much I found myself actually really liking this record. I mean, I'd give it maybe an 8 out of 10, but like I wouldn't say that I like love it, love it. I would say that I just really like it, and yeah, so yeah, I do like kind of love it now. Why don't I just now? Modern baseball aren't necessarily reinventing the genre. They're not giving emo the exciting revitalization that it's been long overdue for the past decade, but what they are doing is cranking out some very catchy, some very relatable, very relatable and pretty relatable, poetic, and pretty passionate record right here. So yeah, let's get into some more descriptive detail after that little lowdown on the record. So it opens with the title track, Holy Ghost, which is basically just an intro track, only about a minute long, but still, the first few times I listened to it, I thought of it as just kind of a acoustic intro for the record, but as I listened to it more and paid closer attention to the lyrics that Jake was saying on this track, I started to realize that even though this is an intro track, it still has some pretty moving impact to it. He sort of talks about his grandfather being like this Holy Ghost that's like, hovering over him, like, after he passed away, and sort of talking about how, he's been haunting his dreams, and he's been sort of been hollering at him at the dark. He's like kind of trying to find the right switch. So yeah, it's actually one of the darker songs on the album lyrically, but still definitely a great way to open the record, record. Yeah. And then you follow that and it transitions really nicely into the first actual song on the record, which is the song "Wedding Singer," which has this sweet, catchy little guitar line that instantly becomes memorable and becomes pretty earwormy, like me 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 on there. And also the lyrics on this track, there are a lot of kind of, middle class references on this track, if you pay closer attention to the lyrics. But it is self-aware enough that it's, still very enjoyable, it's still very relatable, so believable, and it's not too, just melodramatic. And easily one of my favorite songs on the album, mostly because it's so catchy. The guitar riff is one of my favorite riffs on this record because it's one of the most memorable on here. And also it has a fantastic chorus on the track. It really opens up the album on a very positive note, although I know it's the second track, but it's the first actual song. And it's really the song that opens up the record and does it really nicely on there. There's some very sharp production on this record. The performances are very explosive, and they definitely, have some great energy to them from the guitars, the drums, the bass, the vocals. Everything sounds really all crisp and loud and clear, and definitely, has. So I can tell how the band has when the band transitioned from the self-recording to the studio recording, they've really improved as a band in terms of their songwriting and in terms of some much better recording and production on this record, I will admit. So following that is as well as the pretty sharp songwriting, And then there's the track Note to Self, which is another great track, easily one of the best songs modern baseball has probably done, here on this record. It's a pretty triumphant song, sort of talking about where the protagonist is really trying to sort of, find some inspired land, but all he finds are like, things like empty cans and cigarette butts, and he's, as like a little clever wordplay right there, and sort of, talking about how, he's sort of, he's sort of wanting to make something better, out of his life when, it just kind of, tends to crumble a little bit. I initially thought maybe the first half of this record was maybe about this, maybe like this relationship that he was in, but then I eventually found out that it was actually him trying to sort of, keep his life from crumbling when, like, his, like, grandfather passed away and stuff like that. So you can really see how it has a huge impact on him. So the lyrics on here are actually pretty dark, as I looked very closely into there and did a little more research on them. And also, like, this song has a great chorus on it, and just, an explosive bridge where basically Jake, just gets all emotional in the part, and, and to the point where he's having almost this cracked yelp going on with his voice, like, by, like, the end of the bridge, just so much emotion in there, and it really hits me, right there, in the best way, just how explosive, that point in the song is, pretty much. So, yeah, that's one point that makes this song, easily probably one of the best songs modern baseball has done, period. And then the following track, the song Mass, pretty short, minute and a half, tune, which, while majority of the tracks on here I would say have a little more of an indie feel to them, this one has a little more of a punk feel. I mean, this song does kind of sound a little bit like something pulled out of the Green Day playbook, except not as angry, and, and the lyrics don't really deal as much with, like, topics like boredom and masturbation, like a lot of songs on, Green Day's breakout album Dookie, but rather, the song definitely, has, like, I like how this song has kind of a, and while this song is short, it definitely also is another one of my favorite songs on this record, just because I find the lyrics to be pretty interesting, and this, he's sort of talking about how, he's talking about how, like, these days, I miss listening to records, making coffee together, snow globes and jersey sheets, thinking about this, person and his family that he's lost, and also wishing that, that it was still last summer, and that he lived in South Philly, and that he wasn't playing a show in Nebraska or Austin, Texas, asking the kids what they ate for breakfast. Pretty, and also, he's just like, and he's sort of, having this, a little bit of this, pity, just because, it's like, granddad passed away, and he's like, who's paid to keep these things cliche, and he's like, bury me beneath New York State. It's the only place where I feel dead. So, yeah, some pretty, so it's like, kind of, serious and emotional, but at the same time still has some poignancy to it, and it's also very, to it, and it also is in a way that's relatable, and also featuring some pretty clever wordplay and stuff like that, so yeah, definitely a great track, although it is definitely one of the shortest tracks on the record. The next song, Every Day, isn't my favorite on the record, but it still is a great song still, with some lyrics, about some of the lyrics could deal with the troubled relationship a little bit. He's being given tiny tastes of his significant other's truth, and, he's starved, but the other person is full, and also, all the difficulties in life are leading to things like, this, leading to, Anna's face being flushed, and the waiter asking if she's high or something like that, he's sort of talking about how, she's sort of, breaking like her bread won't puff, or, sipping from that holy cup. And so this song is one that deals with a troubled relationship, and I think, does it pretty nicely, pretty much. Although this is one that, focuses less on the hook and more on, the storytelling, pretty much. Although I do like the song musically. Even though the instrumentation on this record is pretty straightforward, the band will once in a while throw in some unusual instruments, like on Wedding Singer you have this, this sort of ringing organ, and then on the song Every Day you're getting a little prog rock maybe from this buzzing synthesizer in the background of the track, which is kind of atmospheric on there. It's so yeah, I do like it musically. The next track on here, Hiding, is by far probably the quietest song on the record, but mostly in the beginning, pretty much. The song really does show, is a more intimate, it just feels like kind of an intimate moment in the middle of the album, and, it's, definitely a great track. It's definitely one of the songs that definitely, focuses more on, lyrics and, just how intimate this track feels. I do really like that about this song. And of course, eventually, this, and there's some lyrics on here about drinking a lot and dancing to The Cure, and so he's sort of talking about how, he wishes his small self had known how much water to use, because, the plants died, all good things. And he's also he finds somehow that the ideas that bring him rest are the ones that, tends to, keep him up at night. And stuff like that. Sort of wondering, have I, are you hiding, or have I abandoned you? And, then eventually it builds up into just this explosive ending that just is, so awesome. And, I like how you just kind of let everything breathe. And it's just, got, so much emotion to it, pretty much. So it's definitely a great track. Eventually, and it does feature some weird little instrumental elements in there. There's, this kind of drony keyboard in the background, as well as these kind of, distorted drum samples on the track, as well as this kind of this, looped, feedback guitar drone that, plays at certain parts of the song and eventually does play for a few seconds at the end of the song. So yeah, that's the end of the side written by Jake. Now we're getting on to the more visceral side of the record, the visceral, shorter side of the record, which happens to be the half penned by Brendan Lukens, starting with the song Coding These to Lukens, which, has some kind of trade-off lead vocals on here, and right away we're being introduced to kind of the, sort of the battle with mental illness and sort of this dark place that, Brendan is in. Although he's I'm sure this won't linger longer than it has to, he's I'm a certain kind of way tonight, and he's sort of, having having this hard phase going on in his life. He's get out of my way and stuff like that. So it definitely does show a more kind of in-your-face kind of, side to the record. So yeah, it is a pretty interesting track lyrically, and although it does kind of end abruptly, it is, the second shortest song on the record, along with the title track on here. But following that is the song Breathing in Stereo, which is probably my least favorite song on the album, because this is the one point in the record where I don't hate the song, I don't dislike it, but, it is the one moment on the record where I do tend to zone out for a couple of minutes, mostly because the song just kind of breezes by in kind of an aggressive blur, so it is kind of, doesn't really have the memorability to it. And also some of the lyrics are kind of eye roller. They kind of go for cliches, like lyrics I hear like, I'm not the same as I was before, but that's cool, whatever. It's just kind of lazy, on there, so it's kind of a, so yeah, it is kind of a, sort of a little bit of kind of a snag in the middle of the record, mostly because I'm not really connecting to the lyrics on the song, and also it's a little too short for me. It kind of ends abruptly. But thankfully, the next track, Apple Cider I Don't Mind, makes up for it, as this is another one of my favorite songs on this record. It is, kind of a, bitter tune. The character can't really seem to make out all the problems in his life. And like wondering, with his significant other, like, did you ever love me? Biopsy from the origin of sound confirms you're speaking truthfully. Concludes everything I've thought about. So it's kind of a bitter kind of, a tune that's kind of, where the character seems to have a lot of, pity during this phase, pretty much. But at the same time, it still is about him, trying to move on and trying to sort of, make better things out of life, pretty much. All much. And then much out of life, and stuff like that. So he's sort of kind of homesick, just sort of waiting to go back to, like, that person that he loved or something like that, because he's, as I said, he's in this pretty dark place here, if you look at this half of the record which he penned, which I think it's pretty interesting how they both penned, one half of the record, because it really does show them sort of, writing at their biggest strength, playing off of and writing off their biggest strengths, pretty much. But also, like, musically, the song's very catchy, it has a great hook on it, and stuff like that. I love the kind of skittering cymbals going on the drums, and then, as well as the, catchy melodic guitars, and the bass line syncopates really nicely with the drums on the song. And, of course, it has catchy little mantra, and it has a catchy little mantra at the end of, tell me this is forever, tell me this is for, which, the abrupt ending on the song I thought was pretty funny, given that mantra, had me singing along, although kind of interrupted by an abrupt end, pretty much. This song, also, the vocals are pretty emotive, definitely have this emotion to them. Following that is the song What If, which, again is, not too bad lyrically, but, it does kind of go by an aggressive blur a little bit for me. But I do really like the closer on here, Just Another Face. Just a really, triumphant chorus on the track, as well as, lyrics sort of about self-doubt and, sort of, where Brendan kind of feels like a waste of time and space, but and he kind of feels the need to kind of change himself from the inside, so he's kind of trying to, and he's sort of, trying to prove to everyone that he's just not, that he's not just another face in the world, pretty much. And, the chorus on here is just so, like triumphant and energetic. Like it definitely makes you want to sing along as Brendan howls, "I'm not just another face." And so yeah, that closes out the album on a very positive note. So overall, I think this is a pretty solid emo record. You know, it may not be anything really altogether new, but that's not necessarily the bad thing. As long as there's some as long as there's some great songs in there, which there are on this record. So, feeling kind of a light 8 out of 10 here on this new Modern Baseball record. So that's my review for this album, and I'll see you for episode 120.